Hi everyone, hope you're having a great day. I know we're going a little stir crazy with this isolation of having to stay home, but that's for the safety of everyone, not just for us. So it's really a minor thing we have to do in order to do our part to hope that everyone stays safe. The big thing is keeping busy while you're stuck in a house all this time. The other day I was watching a video by Susan Tootsie Tucker, and she was talking about Pat Sweeney and making flowers for her. Pat Sweeney is a member of the Upper Midwest MS Society, and she's making these simple little flowers to use in a fundraiser, I believe. So Susan was asking people to help out, either by cutting strips and sending them to Pat, or making the flowers and sending them to Pat. And I said, I can do that. So yesterday, I just sat in my craft room, went through my stash of papers and found a bunch and started cutting. Next thing I knew, I had about 36 different papers cut out, and I started putting together these simple little flowers. Now the reason I chose to do this is threefold. Number one, it's just doing something nice for someone. We can all do that. It makes us feel better, makes us feel needed in times like this, and that doesn't hurt. But long ago, in 1979, my mom had a cerebral hemorrhage, and she was in the hospital for a year before she passed away. And there was a lady in her room. Her name was Jeanette, and Jeanette had MS. And I noticed whenever I went to visit my mom that there was never anybody visiting Jeanette. She was always alone, just lying there in her bed, had the TV on for her to watch, but that was it. She was alone all the time. So one day I took my chair and dragged it over to her bed and sat there and just started talking to her about silly little things, telling her about my little boy, telling her about my pregnancy and my new baby to come, and just chit-chatty little stuff. And I looked up at her, and there was a big tear coming down her cheek. And that just killed me. And I knew it wasn't a tear of sadness, but a tear of happiness that someone took time to sit with her and talk to her. She was lonely. She was lonely. So every time I went to visit Mom, I visited Jeanette. And it made me feel good. I'm sure it made Jeanette feel good. And my mom didn't understand anything that was going on, because after the hemorrhage, I should say, and after her brain surgery, she suffered a major stroke and was paralyzed. And I never knew what she understood or didn't understand at that point. But that was my first real close encounter with somebody with this disease. Then, a long time later, I had moved to California from Rhode Island, and I was the manager of a cardiology practice. The lead doctor in the cardiology practice, his wife had MS. We became friends, and she would call me at work and we would chit-chat. My boss wasn't the greatest guy. He didn't, I don't believe, treated her very well. And she was pretty lonely, and she would call and complain to me about my boss, which made it pretty awkward and difficult. But I would talk to her whenever she needed someone to listen, and until she couldn't speak anymore. And I would help her out doing her payroll for the help she had at her house and stuff like that. She passed away about 5 or 6 years ago, and that was my second encounter with somebody with MS. So when I heard about this, I just thought of those two women right away and said, I can do this. This is easy. So I thought I would come on and tell you about it, show you some of these little flowers and how to make them. If you need a little project to work on to get your mind off of things, this is the perfect one. Doesn't cost you anything. You're just looking for stuff in your stash that you already have, scraps. I did not cut up one single piece of new paper with this. I just used my scraps. And do I have scraps? Anybody who knows me knows I'm a paperholic. And I love papers. This is a container I keep my scraps in. And a few weeks ago I went with it, through it to clean it out. It was just piled over like crazy. So what I did was keep all the solid color pieces of scraps that were a decent size that I thought I could use on a card in a bag. And then I put all of my pattern pieces in a bag as well, the small pieces. And I did so with the white as well. I could always use little pieces of white paper on cards for sentiments and things like that. And then all my larger pieces are in here that I can use somewhere down the line. So I looked through this, found a few pieces of pattern paper that I liked in my little stash of pattern paper and started cutting them up. And then I thought, well, when I cleaned out that container of scraps, did I throw the pieces I took out of there away? Of course not. It's paper. So I threw them all in this big shoebox. And it's loaded with pieces of paper. Actually, this is a box that I made for my grandsons, and I threw scraps in here so whenever they came over and they wanted to craft something, they could go in this box, pick whatever they liked out of it, and make whatever they liked out of it. But I took it and I said, I put a lot of stuff in there. Let me look. And I would just go and I would find pieces like this. And I said, oh my gosh, I can use those. I found lots of scraps in this little box. Well, it's a big box, but little box of papers I just couldn't part with. And I started cutting. And before I knew it, I had about 36 different pieces of paper, 36 different patterns of papers that I had cut into various numbers. And after I was done doing that, I started making flowers. These are the little flowers that Pat needs for her project. I hope you can see that well. It's just a simple little flower. Simple little embellishment in the center. So easy to do, so fun to do, and it took my mind off of all of this baloney we're going through for several hours yesterday. Aren't they cute? And you can mix any colors together, solids, patterns. I think the funkier the mix, the better the flower comes out. I just love them. They came out so cute. I went through my stash after I got done cutting all the paper and looked for embellishments for the center, and I found this little bag of flowers. Just little plastic flowers, nothing special. Don't know if you can see them. And I'm using these to put in the center of the flowers, and they look so cute. I think I got these at AliExpress, so you know they weren't very expensive. So I thought I would show you how to make these flowers in case you're bored, in case you need a project to work on. This one will help a fellow crafter out. It's used for a wonderful purpose. So let's go. You need strips of paper that are a 1/2 inch wide, 6 inches long. I picked these 3 out. Very easy. Then what I personally like to do is just rub my fingers along the paper to make it curl just a little bit. Helps with putting it together, I think. Then take my glue. I use art glitter glue. It's just a little bottle I put it in because it has a small top. Put a little bit of glue on the end of the paper. Glue your piece together. You can just make a circle. Remember when we used to do Christmas strands with construction paper when you were kids to put on the Christmas tree? This reminds me of that. But then you just take the flower and push it down to make 2 loops. That's it, 2 loops. Squeeze it together, put it aside, and do that with all 3 strips. A little bit of glue, put it, connect it, flip it over where your seam is, put a little more glue, and make your 2 loops by just pushing it together. Very easy. And you will be amazed at the stuff you find in your stash. And you cut it up and you look at all these papers and you say, ugh, they're not going to go together. I would take things and stick them together and say, this is really kind of cool. There's another one. That's it. The next thing you need is a circle. I just took my little circle punch like this. I think this is a 1-inch circle to make. And then you start gluing. So take the back side of your loop and center it on that little circle you made. I hope you can see that. Take your second color, little glue on the back. I like the art glitter glue because it sticks really, really well. But it dries quickly, so you need to work fairly fast with it. And the third one, you put here. Now what I forgot to tell you, what I did, is the first 2 flowers I put on here, and they're like an X. And then the third one I put across this way to give you that little flower shape. If you put it together where you put the first 2 like a cross, it just doesn't look as pretty. So then I need a center, and I'm going to take one of these little purple gems, and I put a little bit of hot glue in there because I really want these to stick well since they have to travel. Stick it down there, and we got a flower. Isn't it cute? I love it. And what did that take? A couple of seconds, not very long. Goes in my pile. Before I knew it yesterday, I had over 2 dozen made, and I still have tons of scraps cut out, and I have plenty of centers to go with it. And I felt really good. I felt really, really good about it at the end of the day. There's a couple that I made. Pretty pink and green and some funky colors together. But I think it looks awesome. I love it. I love it. And the crazier you get with your papers, the more fun they look, I think. And that's it. I think one of my favorites is all polka dots. I love polka dots. And this just looks so springy, Eastery to me. So cute. And I do have one that maybe I can find to show you that I used all the same color paper, and that came out very pretty. So if you think you'd like to contribute to this cause, have something to keep you busy, keep your mind off of what's going on for all of us these days. I will have my email address in the description below the video, and you can email me and I will give you Pat's address to send these to. Now you can either put the flowers together like I chose to do, or you can just cut the strips. The strips, as I said, are 1/2 inch wide, 6 inches long, and just send a bunch of strips to Pat and she'll put them together. She was saying the other day that her fingers were getting wrinkled from getting glue all over her fingers because she was making so many of them. So helping her out would be a really nice thing to do. So that's all I came on for, to tell you about this, to show you these little flowers and how easy they are to make. And maybe it's something you can do to keep yourself busy and keep your mind off of everything. Hope you enjoyed this, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.